welcome to Legal Affairs. My name is Diamond Liddy, and I'm the public defender of the 19th Judicial Circuit. We have a guest today that's been with us. We were just talking about it before we started rolling the film. That's been with us years ago, maybe even as long as 20 years ago, but in a different role. But now, Vern Melvin, who we all adore, is back with us again, and another role. But Vern, you are now, what is your exact title with Guardian Ad Litem?
Circuit Director.
Okay.
Right. Circuit 19 Director.
Circuit 19 Director of Guardian Ad Litem, but
Correct.
We have to give the full background because it just, number one, is interesting. Number two, it shows how extraordinarily qualified you are to have this role, and just the background is, so interesting. So let's start at the beginning. Give us, from where you started till now. Seriously.
Boy, that covers like 40 plus years, Diamond.
It's all right.
And we've known each other for almost 30 years.
I know. Oh my God.
I actually started my career as a house parent on the night shift in a cottage in a juvenile delinquency reformatory.
Now see, I didn't know that.
That's how I started.
Really?
Okay?
Where was that, Vern?
This is in Okeechobee. Yeah.
No kidding.
Back then it was the Florida School for Boys at Okeechobee. I had
wow.
I was between jobs. I had actually dropped out of college at the time and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. They were hiring at the boys' school, as we used to call it. So I got a job there and on the night shift, and eventually worked my way to the day shift. I got serious about life after that, knew what I wanted to do, which was work with children, went back to school, got married in the meantime, and eventually—
To a wonderful lady.
To a wonderful lady, Maureen, absolutely. Eventually came back to that same institution as a social worker. Right. And then eventually assistant superintendent of the facility. And then back then that was Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services, HRS. Right. Then moved to
Gosh, that's a blast from the past, isn't it? Right.
It is.
And HRS, just so the viewers know, HRS is now DCF, correct? Okay.
Correct. Then moved to the program office in West Palm Beach at the time. And then when they created the Department of Juvenile Justice in 1992, I believe, I was appointed the Juvenile Justice Director for this circuit.
Which is a big deal. All of it's a big deal, but go ahead.
Did that until 2000 and moved over to the Department of Children and Families as the district administrator for this same four-county area. Did that until the beginning of 2012. And
well, you retired.
I retired.
Okay.
I retired. I was out for almost 2 years.
Right.
And
now, okay, we've been together a lot of years.
Right.
So tell me, had you planned on coming back? You hadn't.
I had not.
Right.
I had not.
You were gonna. Were you bored? Were you?
No, actually, I wasn't. And you hear that from people who've retired.
Right.
After a few months, I just got bored. I needed something to do. That was not my case at all. I had some projects I had been wanting to follow up on for years, and I live on North Hudson Island.
Right.
And so I really enjoyed that retirement time. Had not intended to come back. This opportunity with the Guardian Ad Litem program came up completely unexpectedly. The state director for the Guardian Ad Litem program, Alan Abramowitz, who was appointed by Governor Scott in 2010, is a close personal friend. He and I were colleagues in DJJ together. We were colleagues in DCF together, and even during my retirement, we talked probably weekly just because we were close friends.
Right.
And then one day he said to me, "Vern, so are you ready?" And I'm like, "Ready for what, Alan?" And he said, "To come back." And I said, "Alan, I'm really enjoying retirement." And he said, "Well, I have an opening in the Guardian Ad Litem program in your circuit. You've never left the Treasure Coast in Okeechobee. I think it'd be an ideal situation for you, and I'm going to give you two reasons why you should consider it. One is it's not as stressful as DCF, and we were both
Is
there.
that true?
That's true.
Okay,
It is
okay,
true.
okay.
And the second is, and you'd have to know Alan, the second is, we'll be together again and it'll be fun, you know? So I'm like, you know, maybe I should consider this. And I did, and it was 2.5 years ago. And I've really enjoyed my role with the Guardian Ad Litem program.
Now, okay, and I've got a million questions.
Okay.
But let's start with the basics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I obviously know, but what exactly, people, I think everybody knows the term guardian ad litem. You know,
Correct.
like, you know, I'll have people call and say, I know you have volunteer opportunities in your office. Can I be a guardian ad litem? I mean, that word
Right.
it just it sounds good. It sounds like you're helping people.
Right.
And they have no idea what a guardian ad litem is.
Right.
And I say, no, I'm not. I'm affiliated, if you will, with Guardian Ad Litem. I work with them, but I have no, you know, that's not what we do. I can direct you, whatever. But what exactly is the Guardian Ad Litem program?
The Guardian Ad Litem program is a state agency, just like DCF is, just like DJJ is, that
Right.
sort of thing. What makes the Guardian Ad Litem program unique is that it's a public-private partnership. In DJJ, for example, or DCF, whenever we had volunteers to work in
Right.
our office, it was usually to help with clerical services, that sort of thing.
Right.
You know, this is completely different. We rely on volunteers, citizens from the community, to represent the best interest of children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected and are under court supervision.
Okay.
The same children
Beautiful.
that DCF and community-based care is responsible for. It's the
Okay.
very same children. It's just a different role. We are the voice of those children.
Right.
Some people would say, well,
Now let's stop
okay.
there. Are you so you are going to tell the court exactly what the child wants, even though it may not be what the guardian feels is in the best interest? You're the voice of the child, so you're going to tell the court exactly regardless, or no?
Both, actually.
Okay,
We
okay.
will tell the court what the child wants.
Right.
Now, remember, we're representing children from birth to
Right.
18 years
I know.
old. So,
Gotcha.
it depends on their age. So, it's important for the court to know what the child wants.
Right.
But we represent the best interest of the child, what we think is in the best interest of the child.
Okay.
A lot of children, even though they've been abused, abandoned, or neglected, and sometimes severely, still want to go home.
Well, it's like
You know?
the beaten wife.
It
you
is
know,
exactly.
You know.
Exactly. You know, and I was watching a TED talk the other day on the child welfare system, and I heard a line that I thought was great, and that is that foster children who want to go home for them is not an address; it's a state of mind. And I love that
wow.
because it is. You
Right.
know, so while we share with the court what the child wants, we also share with the court what we think is in the best
Okay.
interest of that child, because the best interest may not be that child going back home at that time.
Right.
And it may be. And if it is, we're going to do everything we can to facilitate that. So in a lot of ways, I've had several judges and magistrates to tell me over the past couple of years that they view the guardians, the citizens from the community.
And these are all volunteers.
These are all volunteers.
Okay,
These
okay.
are all, now I have case managers,
Right.
you know, to
oversee the
support and
volunteers.
supervise the
Okay.
volunteers.
Right.
But the volunteers are the ones who actually go out, spend time with the children, you know, work with them, that sort of thing, write court reports. I've had judges and magistrates tell me they view those citizen volunteers as their eyes and ears.
Right.
And
right.
I think that's an accurate description. We're not biased in any way, from the perspective of, you know, we're not representing the parents.
Right.
You know, we're not representing the state, so to
Right.
speak. You know, DCF, that sort of thing. Strictly that child. The Department of Children and Families has to take the whole family into consideration and work with the whole family, and we do too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's that child's best interest that we're solely focused on.
Do you have enough volunteers, Vern?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question
Yeah.
because statewide, we just achieved the statewide, and I'll talk
Right.
about Circuit 19 in
Yeah.
a second. Statewide, we just broke the 10,000 volunteer record or level, okay? No other state
Oh,
out of
Cool.
50 has 10,000 volunteers. We
Oh
far
my
exceed
gosh.
any other state, regardless of the size, Texas, California, New York, whatever.
Wow.
We are #1 in volunteers for the Guardian Ad Litem program in Florida.
oh my goodness.
It is
Whoa.
huge.
I had no idea.
Exactly. It is huge.
Now, what about Circuit 19?
Circuit 19, our goal has been 400 volunteers, and we are right at it.
Wow.
We are right at it. Now, does that mean that we have enough volunteers to represent all the children who are under court supervision? Unfortunately not. We represent almost 900 children, and on any given day in this four-county area, there are 1,100 children who are under court supervision. But we don't have the resources to recruit and not to recruit, but we don't have the resources to supervise those additional
Right.
volunteers.
Right.
Our case managers, or child advocate managers is what we call
Now,
them.
they're paid, correct?
They're paid.
So you've got volunteers that are not paid, they
Mm-hmm.
give up their time. Then you've got case managers, and then you?
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty much?
Yeah, well, we have case manager
That are paid.
supervisors. We have an assistant
Right,
director,
okay,
and then
okay.
and then me.
Okay.
The first couple of weeks I was there, you know, I was trying to figure out exactly how does this all work with the volunteers, the case managers,
Yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
thing. And after a couple of weeks, I came to the realization it was like I was a volunteer with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, Judy Miller's program,
Right.
for about 8 years with a young man.
Right.
Okay. I was a volunteer, and I had a case manager I reported to,
Yeah.
who would give me guidance,
which I-
remind me
right.
of what the rules are, and I could go to, even though
Right.
quite honestly I was a professional in child welfare field.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit different when you're actually working
Oh, I know.
right with that child,
I
sort of
know.
thing. And so our structure is very similar to that. We have volunteers who are supervised just like I did,
Right.
with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
And they can go to them for guidance.
Exactly.
What kind of, God, I got a million questions here. What kind of time commitment, because obviously
Right.
you always need, and I want to help you with that.
Sure.
What kind of time commitment is it for a guardian ad litem?
It's on average 10 to 15 hours a month, quite
Really?
honestly.
Okay.
Yes. We require that they visit the children at least once a month and spend
Okay.
time with them at least once a month.
Okay.
The rest of the time might be meeting with the child's teacher or guidance counselor
Right.
or therapist, those kind of things.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
not a tremendous, I mean, people can do that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
now what about court? Let's say, does the court work around the volunteer schedule when scheduling a hearing?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Not and if anybody's familiar with the court system, Diamond Liddy is familiar with the court system. The court will be as accommodating as possible.
Right, but,
We can usually plan out because,
Right,
for
okay.
example, judicial reviews, which are reports to the court on how the child is doing, are usually every 3 or 6 months. And they're set that far in advance so that the volunteer can
work
plan around it.
right.
Or if for some reason we know a volunteer on a particularly difficult case is not going to be available for the next court date, usually we can get that accommodated by scheduling a different date,
Okay.
that far out. The court will also, when necessary, it's not preferable, but when necessary, allow the guardian volunteer to appear by phone.
Gotcha. Okay.
That can happen also. And if for some reason the guardian volunteer can't appear at all, their supervisor, the case manager, will represent.
hearsay is acceptable. in this,
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you assign a volunteer to a child. How long on the average, I know it differs, but on the average, how long are they with that child/family?
On average, 12 months. On
Okay.
average, 12 months.
Wow.
It could be a little less. It could be a little longer. I was talking to a volunteer day before yesterday who has been with a sibling group for 5 years. They've been in the system that long. Now,
Right.
that's the outlier. That's
Right.
the extreme.
Right.
So it can be our volunteers. The other question we get frequently is, so how many? What's my caseload?
Right.
How many? Is it one child? Is it several? Is it
Yeah.
what?
Okay, what is it?
On average, 2 to 3 children.
Oh, good.
We ask.
Okay.
And particularly if it's a sibling group. You know, if it's a sibling group of
It
3
could
or
be
4,
just
whatever,
one.
it could be, and it could be just one.
Right, right.
We do our best. In fact, we do accommodate the needs of the volunteer. For
Sure.
example, a volunteer may prefer to work with teenagers
Right.
because that's just who they're more comfortable interacting with and that sort of thing. Others want toddlers. You know,
Yeah.
they want that, you know, that small child.
And what's
to
the
represent.
average age of your volunteers?
Average age of our volunteers is right at 60.
Really?
So,
Okay.
so most of them are older.
Right.
You know, in fact, our
And
turnover
wiser.
and wiser. Yeah, actually, yeah, a lot of life
Sure.
experience.
Sure.
You know, and there's something to be said for that. And we also get the question of, so what's required as far as being eligible to be a volunteer, and what are the training requirements? Okay, first of all, to be eligible to be a volunteer, you have to be 21. You go through background screening,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
You know, we do an interview. We go through an interview process. You know, that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, if you don't have any criminal history, or very limited from many years ago, for
Right,
example.
right,
I mean,
right.
you know, a lot
Yeah.
of people did stupid things when they were young,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
right, got it.
And are 21 years older and are a caring, compassionate adult, then you qualify. Is what the bottom line is. You know, just like with the big brothers, big sisters, that sort of thing.
Well, and I have to ask this question, you know, because we have volunteers in our office so often. Two points. Number one, how long do they usually? They usually stay for years, don't they? I mean, they don't get assigned 2 cases and then see ya.
No.
They're hooked, aren't they? Pretty much once they.
The average for a volunteer is 3 years.
Wow.
That's the average.
Okay.
We have one volunteer who's been with us 25 years. We have a
course.
couple of others who've been with us 20 years. We've got several in the 15-year range.
Right.
A lot in the 10-year range, that sort of thing.
Right.
You know, they're with us for a while.
Do you ever have volunteers come to you, Vern, and say, you know, I'm just discouraged and disillusioned with the court system. I want to do this. I want to help kids, but I'm out of here because of that.
It happens,
Sure.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
You know, the question we get frequently is, how many chances do these parents get?
Oh,
you know,
yes, yeah.
as opposed to this poor child who's in foster care, who's been in foster care for 2 years already, may have gone into foster care at, say, a year and a half or 2 years. Oh, at that point, at 4 or 5 years old, all they know is the foster parents and
right.
that sort. You know, the bonding is starting to occur. You know, that sort of thing. That is a frustration. That is
Yeah.
a frustration. But parents have rights.
Right.
You know, and
Now, can they ever? And I'm I'm trying to get
Sure.
everything in. I remember when I was 100 years ago when I was in private practice.
in fact, if I remember right, let me jump in here. Somebody told me, gosh, in the past couple of weeks when I told them I was going to be on your show, they said Diamond was a contract attorney with the part-time with the Guardian Ad Litem program, probably back in the beginning, which was 89, 90 or something like that. But anyway, way back then. Is that true?
Oh yeah. In fact, but we won't get into it. One of my biggest cases that I've represented a family was a case in Okeechobee with Judge Connor, who's now a DCA judge.
Right.
And I was involved with that family for almost 3 years.
Wow.
It was, I mean, and talk about a mess and, talk about opening your eyes. But anyway.
Right.
And I
right.
ran into one of the children in Okeechobee gosh, 3 years, has a family. I mean, it's
that
one
right?
of the,
Yeah.
incredible, gives you goosebumps. Anyway, gosh, now I got, what was I going to ask?
But yes, the system can frustrate guardians.
Right.
Right. But for the most part, they're pretty patient. Our guardians are pretty resilient.
I know what I was going to say. In my office, of course, I have tons of volunteers.
Right.
We couldn't, function
Right,
without them
right.
because of the budgets.
Right.
But we have been so blessed, knock on wood, not having them, quote, blow up in our face thus far after all. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's just, have you, is it like herding cats or no? Well, you know what I'm saying. We have a volunteer coordinator,
Right.
Pat Alley.
Right.
And she oversees all
Right.
of them and what they do and all
Right.
of that. And then, of course, we have our
Right.
investigator program, and Brandon handles that. But we've been fortunate not to have something crazy happen, and we've had hundreds over the years. You guys are you blessed that way too?
We are.
Okay.
Occasionally we will have a guardian who is maybe a little too passionate and maybe a little misguided
Right.
because of that.
Oh yeah, now that you're going to have,
but no, we haven't had, since I've been there in the past 2.5 years, we have not had a situation to occur that was particularly problematic for the child or for the family, that sort of thing.
I know what I was going to ask now. Back in the day when we used to call the termination of parental rights, which you had just mentioned.
TPR, right.
Parents have rights too.
Exactly.
The termination of parental rights, which severs all rights to the with the parent and child forevermore.
Right.
The civil death penalty.
Exactly.
And do guardians, when they go to court, ever get to say that that's their recommendation, or are they just addressing the needs of the child and what's in their best interest and the voice of the child? But do they ever get asked that question or get to say to the court, Judge, in my opinion, parental rights should be terminated?
They do.
Okay.
And,
wow.
and they have to testify to that.
That is a big deal for a volunteer.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
no, that's
Absolutely.
the civil death penalty as far,
It really is, and it should be taken seriously because
Wow.
it is, like you
Right.
said, the civil death penalty. Because once that decision is rendered, then they literally have no more rights to that child.
Yeah.
It's as if that child didn't exist.
Yeah.
And they don't exist.
Right.
For that child anymore. So that is very serious. But I'd like to say for children who have guardians. Research shows that they do better in school. They spend less time in foster care. They're 50% less likely to return to foster care if they've had a guardian volunteer.
right.
They achieve permanency quicker, even though sometimes the system can prolong it. On average, if a child does have a guardian volunteer, they will get through the system, much quicker.
Right.
They're much more likely to get adopted if that's the appropriate,
Right.
decision in the end. So for a child to have a guardian, it benefits them greatly. And the other thing I've heard, Diamond, from the guardians is, and I think for any of us who volunteered for any number of programs over the years, but volunteers have told me that they go into it in the beginning to help the child. But then they
Right.
find out they probably benefit themselves
Oh yeah.
more. They receive more than they give.
Right. Right.
And-
Well, that's why, and you're in the, I mean, people, oh, it's wonderful you do this and that and what, it's selfish. It's, don't tell me how wonderful because you do this and that. It's because it makes you feel good too. I mean, yes, you give of yourself, and that's a great thing, and yada yada yada. But you know, it's just what you said. I
Right.
mean, the person who does that gets the biggest bang most of the time. You know.
They do. Could I ask you this?
Sure.
Before we run out of time.
Yeah, 'cause
okay?
we got 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, please.
I'd like to give some examples of why some volunteers say they do what they do.
Okay, please,
And I'm
please.
going to, with your indulgence, read it because I want to make sure I
Sure.
get it right. Why I volunteer? Lynn said, I can't save them all, but I can try to save that one. Jill said, I want to make our community a brighter place in whatever way I can. And helping to give a child a greater chance at a healthy, thriving future is an important part of that. Bernie said, for the personal satisfaction it gives me to hopefully make a difference. Perry said, because children need people in their corner that have no agenda but the children's welfare. Shirley said, I do it because someone has to do it. Barb said, because I can, many cannot, but we all should.
Oh, wow.
Sandy said, because I love children and it hurts me to see them hurt, I want to help. Denny said, I served my country for more than 20 years during my naval career, and I'm happy to now serve my community as well, especially since I grew up here and it's my home again. Ron said, beginning with childhood, we're all bruised in some way. If I can leave a spot of light in a child's memory, it's all worthwhile. And Ed said, because a child feeling unloved is worse than monsters under the bed.
Oh, oh.
Powerful, poignant.
Yeah.
And let me give you one more example recently of an unsolicited sort of testimonial. My wife does not like any sort of stickers on a car.
Right.
At all.
Right.
But she's agreed to our magnetic Guardian ad Litem program sticker to be put on the back of her car.
Right.
She was recently at Publix over here on US 1, and whenever she had bought the groceries and coming out, a young lady was helping her with the groceries, bringing the cart out. When they got to the car, the young lady saw the Guardian ad Litem sticker on the car, and she said, are you a Guardian? And Maureen said, no, I'm not, but my husband is, and works with the Guardian ad Litem program. She said, please tell him that God bless him in the program. I was in foster care most of my youth, and my guardian made all the difference in my life.
God.
It's like when I got home that night and Maureen shared that story with me, you know, it's like and that's what they do. That's what the citizens of this community do. That's the difference they make. And I could not be more proud to be associated with this program and with these individuals.
Well, and that's my last question with 30 seconds left. You've seen it all, Vern, you know, DCF, DJJ, whatever. Is this about the best?
It's probably the most satisfying role that I've had. It is.
And they can call, the number's been on the screen while we've had this show.
Correct.
If someone wants to volunteer, send money, whatever.
Exactly.
You certainly will answer the phone and
Absolutely.
do whatever you can.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing from them.
Okay, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for all you do.
It's good to be with you again, Diamond.
Thanks.